Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Fritz Paul.
Javier Munoz.
Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talk House podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talk House podcast. I'm Josh Modell. This week's episode began somewhere not particularly known for good or fruitful ideas, Twitter. That's where the poet Maggie Smith dropped a funny notion, which songwriter John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats picked up and ran with. Smith, who was in the process of splitting up with her husband, suggested a photo essay in which she'd take her old wedding dress on a tour of the country, Weekend at Bernie's style, only the dead thing isn't a guy, it's her marriage. Never one to shy away from life's darkest moments, Darnielle jokingly suggested, or at least it seemed like a joke, that there was a song in Smith's idea, and he suggested calling it Picture of My Dress. And then, wouldn't you know it, he went and wrote the song, releasing it on last year's excellent album, Getting Into Knives. Here's a little of Picture of My Dress.
Here at a truck stop in New Mexico, just before dawn, somebody's grandma behind the wheel of a big rig, pulling in with her headlights on.
It probably shouldn't come as a surprise that Darnielle came up with the song. He's so prolific that it makes the average person, meaning me, really jealous. The Mountain Goats released 2 studio albums and a live album in 2020, and another new album this year called Dark in Here. He's also an accomplished novelist and served as a judge for the 2020 National Book Awards. Speaking of writers, nice segue there, Josh. Maggie Smith had the unusual distinction of being a poet who broke through to the wider world with a poem called Good Bones back in 2016. Last year, she released the well-received essay collection Keep Moving, Notes on Loss, Creativity, and Change, and just last month released a poetry collection called Goldenrod. All are well worth your time, and Smith is on a sort of virtual book tour at the moment. You can check out the details at her website, maggiesmithpoet.com. In this conversation, Darnielle and Smith talk about the unusual nature of their kinda-sorta collaboration, a delightful thing she calls the cake sound, John's failed attempt at writing a song about NASCAR, and lots more. Enjoy.
Maggie, have we met in person?
No, I was just thinking about that. I think we've really only interacted publicly on Twitter and then in emails and little, screens on DMs, but never in person. I mean, I've been to shows.
Which ones? Ace of Cups?
The last one I was at was in Cincinnati.
Oh, no kidding. I love Cincinnati.
Which was, it was a terrific show.
Yeah, Cincinnati, man. I mean, it's along with Pittsburgh, it's one of the most underpraised towns around, So it's also funny, it's like normally I'm the guy who kind of over personalizes the interview and says, so how are you doing? Who am I talking to? And now all interviews begin with, how are you holding up? Are you at home all the time? How's your town?
Yeah, it's true, because we're all kind of in this weird liminal, I am hiding in my bedroom right now because there were some aggressive suburban leaf blowers.
Oh man, yeah.
Out on the street in front of my house, and my office is like it's just encased in windows right on the front of my house.
I have that, with 2 kids in the house is like, normally I have an office that I go to, but I don't go there now because it's all hands on deck here at home with 2 kids.
Yep.
So I was working on my next book and I stopped going to the office to do it as soon as I got to a stage where I could, because my wife works a job too. She's working remotely from the kitchen table and supervising Moses in school. And so there becomes interview things where it's like, I go out to the yard and the kids follow me to the yard for the interview. It's like, which is a blessing, but it changes everything. Interview season has been very, very different.
It has been different. I've been bribing my kids with snacks and movies in my bed on my laptop so I can Zoom and do like live TV or interviews from my office.
Yeah, I do that. But then Roman has a thing where he wants to come in and talk to the people on the Zoom. Right? So it's like, and he gets very upset if he can't. And so it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
He got to say goodbye to all the National Book Awards people last night he was very, very fond of. That's been the most consistent thing in my life, actually, has been the meeting of the fellow judges on the National Book Awards.
I love it.
Yeah, that's been my social life. It's our monthly meetings to winnow the field of all these books we're reading to get down to.
Yeah, and there's a much worse social life that one could have than gathering with book people to talk about books.
No, it was good, and I mean, I fear I was the one who sort of like gently but leading by example. So why don't we have drinks while we do this? So you have a new book out, and you got on TV about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a weird time to have a book out, especially a book about resilience and getting through tough stuff. It's like, well, oh, hi 2020. I suppose it's a good enough time to release a book about getting through tough stuff. But yeah, so I've been doing book tour from this house, sometimes with my kids here, sometimes they've been at their dad's, and we're just kind of cobbling it together and making it work.
Dad is in the same town as you?
Yeah, for now, not for long, but for now he is.
Wow, that's a blessing there.
Yeah, it's been useful. That's about to change and things will get a little different. But for now, they've been able to bounce back every few days and see lots of both of us, which has been really good.
And how old are they?
Mine are 8 and 11, although my daughter will be 12 next month.
Wow. Oh, 12, 12. That's big.
Yeah, I know. I think I started writing poems around the time I was 12 or 13. So I remember what it's like to be that middle school girl just trying to figure out what the hell is happening in my brain and body and in the world. And now I'm supposed to be somehow the wise oracle for that person. And it feels like a very full circle thing for me.
Yeah, that's intense. 12, 13, 14 is that's my sort of wild zone. That's when I was at peak, really starting. I'm going to be a writer. This is what I'm going to do. I'm starting to write short stories and submit them to the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. And what was the other one? Was it Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine, or was it Analog, the John? I can't remember, but I was like sending my short stories out. They were trash, I mean, they were utter trash. And some of the names who would be rejecting them, when I grew up, I go, oh, Mars Williams, that's actually a dude.
Holy moly. Yeah.
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 Like I remember getting a personal rejection slip from Mars Williams, and like, well, the guy's name is Mars. What's that? And then when you get into rock and roll, you go, oh, he's a dude,
Oh,
an actual dude. And doing all that kind of stuff. And but middle school, it was called junior high where I was at, and it was like, for my wife and I both, actually something we bond about it. For both of us, like that was the worst of it. That was bad times.
oh, totally. You couldn't pay me any amount of money to be like 14 years old again.
14 was also bad, but I did get a girlfriend, right? And
That helps.
it helped so much. It was a big. I mean, well, the thing is, like, so we were very intimate, and then the jocks who were being uncool to me, I could totally tell is like, your life is actually a little less complicated than mine right now, and that's why you're angry.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
it was huge for me. It was like pretty giant. I can never tell if we've lost each other on these Zoom calls. Think about how weird that is. When you are having a conversation with somebody, you are generally not beholding an image of your face as you speak. That's something you would have to, like, ideally, if that was going to become your reality, you'd rehearse for it, and you'd like have a therapist you talk to, say, okay, soon I'm going to be going to this world where you're unable to have a conversation with somebody unless you are looking at your own face. And then you would figure out how that changes the situation for you.
I know. I mean, it sounds like a premise for some dystopian novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet we're living it. So here we are.
Because that's the thing, because when you speak, I mean, this is like in talking about the self in fiction and stuff, it's like the self does not behold itself when it acts. And ideally, you have enough sort of integration with yourself that you're cool with that. Then, you have the self that you imagine in your mind when you speak. And then when you do see film of yourself, you go, oh, I look a little different than the me who's in my imagination when I talk.
Hmm.
And having those things become harmonious is sort of a mark of where you've come to, and instead it's like there's this constant ringing discord.
I feel it too. I mean, I think if you're not feeling that, something's wrong. Maybe that's a good psychological marker. If it hurts you a little bit to have to look at your face all the time while you're talking, that's a good sign.
Like, I don't even remember when the first time I saw a picture of myself was, but my kids, as soon as they can register thoughts, are looking at pictures of themselves on screens and loving it,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. And
and
wanting to see video, like
oh
bring
yeah.
me the video of myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And I never saw a moving image of myself until I was sometime in my 20s,
Yep.
probably,
Yep.
and they love it. I mean, kids are like, they can't, and they like to see videos of themselves as babies when they get a little older, and they just, they have particular pictures they identify. I remember there was when Roma was like 2, we were shopping at Target, right? and he happened to grab a book that had a speaker on it. And it was, I'm sorry to inform you, called A Book About Farts, right? And it was like, it was in the, they're trying to get rid of this thing, and you open it and you punch the speaker and it makes fart noises, right? Well, he was 2.5, 3 years old. He thought it was the greatest thing he'd ever seen in his life, right? And then like 2 years later, we're looking at pictures of it. He goes, that picture is Roman in a book about farts.
I love it.
Oh, I had to quit therapy because I couldn't afford it because I'm not working. But like when I was in therapy, I remember thinking, I'm getting better when I'm able to sit quietly after a stretch of conversation without feeling like I have to break into it.
I feel the same way. I've had so much practice with this, just doing all of these Zooms and podcasts over the past several months. And it definitely feels healthy to allow a little bit of space without having to sort of do what I would do, which is like nervously laugh or crack a like humor is completely the way that I cope with anxiety. And so just to be able to sit and take a breath and not panic is good.
It's funny if you do that on most interviews, though, the interviewer gets nervous. And I'm not, because I talk so much, like I have to actually be doing this in a sort of a mildly sadistic way, going, oh, I'm gonna stop talking and not say I'm done. I'm gonna finish my sentence and stop.
And just stop and let it breathe a little bit. I do that in teaching sometimes too. It's, because you have to sometimes give students a little bit of time to think through things and let some silence fill the room until someone feels like they're ready to say something. And if you barrel on because you're nervous about those, natural pauses in the rhythm of the workshop or whatever, it kills everything.
It's such a hard thing to develop. And I think also in the age of, what are the websites where they evaluate teachers? And now all your evaluations are live online forever, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Like, which on the one hand, I think there's a value before I enroll in a class, especially if I'm in college and it's costing me a ton of money, right? Then I want to find out, what do people say about this teacher? But on the other hand, I don't need to hear everybody's worst case scenario.
Exactly.
And if you don't, that's the thing, is like the world so privileges at this time in history and in our culture, active, very dynamic, very spirited, very forceful stuff. It's like the notions of pedagogy, I think, took a hard hit after Dead Poets Society, right?
Yeah, if you're not standing on your desk, what are you doing?
Yeah, then you must not really be excited about the stuff if you're not yelling about it, right? And that's also such a very male coded thing, is like the man will stand up and tell you that it's real, right? And I was so bummed about that because poetry lives in quiet places too, and I think places where they have remained more engaged with poetry know this, is like the space of poetry isn't just the space of shouting it from the mountaintop.
Yeah, it's rarely that space.
It is, well, like at the end of the poem, if you go to a good reading, at the end of the poem, when it gets to the resolve and the space opens up, that's really, the poem hasn't happened until you get to that state. And it's not all Whitman. By the way, even though I now love Walt Whitman, I will still get going hating on him because
Okay, I'm here for all of it.
of how deep his legacy is, and how many, he's one of those guys who, like, he's great, but we don't have to then shape our entire ethos around him.
I agree. Yeah, I love the moment at the end of a poem in a live reading situation where it gets really quiet and then someone or maybe multiple people all make the sound that I call the cake sound, because it's kind of the sound that you might make when you put a bite of cake into your mouth. You know that sound where people go, "Mmm," at the end
It's
of a
really
poem?
good, yeah.
I love that. And if you have to be quiet in order to give people the opportunity to make the cake sound and for you to hear it.
And the reading itself is the cutting of the cake, that very careful measured of the slices, trying to get them all even, trying to not
Yes.
put too much. If you have one that's too big, then it's gonna throw off the
I love it. I've been buying so many books, in part because I know indie bookstores need us right now, and so many records, and justifying it to myself that I'm, supporting the arts and culture, but also if I
Yes.
can't leave my house, I need I need these things to help get me through the day.
I do, except I don't, I mean, if I never bought another book again, I will not finish all the ones I have, right? I have too many
That's
books,
probably true in my case too.
but that did not stop me from renewing my subscription to Archipelago this morning.
Yeah.
So, 'cause
Good.
I think it's Borges or no, Garcia Marquez who has an essay about how, the books you have, they're for reading, but they also represent versions of yourself. Like I discovered a writer. I was reading at Brookline Booksmith somewhere around Boston, and I always go straight to literature and translation place. And there was a book by Ibrahim Al-Koni, who I didn't know about, called The Bleeding of the Stone, but the blurbs on it all said, oh, this is like, if you want to know anything about Lebanese novels, you want to start here. I was like, okay, cool. And I bought it and it was amazing. So 2 years later, I read another thing by him, and this guy's great. So I got his magnum opus, which is called The Fetishists. And it is a big, hefty book, right? The kind of book you read when you don't have 2 children and 2 jobs. And, and you try to, and I read a lot this year on the National Book Awards thing, but this is a big tome. And I'm staring at it right now going, man, maybe. Well, maybe I never read this book, right? But the me who does read that book is off there in possible futures somewhere, really having a good time discovering the mind of this writer who most English readers will never even hear of. And I just like to give the me who reads that book a little space in the house by having the book on the shelf.
I love that. There's some version of you, maybe some aspirational version who has more time and headspace than you have right now.
But the other thing is, as you grow older, it's not like my attention span is going to be keener when I'm 80. Like the idea that once the kids are grown and there's enough time that I'm actually going to have this amazing focus that you have most when you're in your 20s, and then you start to feel it fray a little bit. It's like, and you can get a better focus for a shorter amount of time, but you're unlikely to have to be able to sit down and bore through War and Peace in 2 days or something like that.
What are you talking about? We're totally going to be doing that when we're 80. It's going to be like one of those old Country Time lemonade commercials on the porch, but with a giant book. That's totally what we're going to do.
I like to think that my physical fitness journey over the past few years will make it more likely that I can do this. That somehow organically it'll come together.
I have to ask, so I know you're a runner. Do you come up with ideas, writing ideas, song ideas while you run? Are you in your head in that way?
Very occasionally, I listen to music while I run.
Yeah, so do I.
Sometimes podcasts, but I did a podcast yesterday, and I listened to a Lisa Tuttle short story, and it was great, but I can't quite get loose I can't get free enough listening to podcasts, and I'm more conscious of body stuff that I otherwise will be completely unconscious of. Like, I just don't feel tired when I'm running to music at all. It's like, I'm up to 3-hour runs now, and I won't feel tired. I'm just so it's the music and me and the part of my body that doesn't get tired. It's like kind of great. Whereas if I'm listening to prose, it's like I'm so in my head that I can't really get free.
Yeah.
I keep trying because everybody else listens to talking podcasts and stuff, and making my mixes now takes forever. Right? It's like it's a long mix, so I have to spend a lot of time, putting it together.
Yeah, 3 hours is a lot of songs.
Yeah, well, sometimes it'll be like an album in the middle. I'll talk about this forever, but when I do get an idea, I will either fire up a sound app, or I will try and tap something into this note-taking program I use called Bear. That's a really good thing for notes. And I'll get song titles. I got one on a long run a couple of weeks ago. I jogged past a place that has some sort of thing with goats for Christmas, and I took notes about that.
I love it.
And I'm pretty sure, that one of these song titles on my song title note was during a run. Dirty Nightgown. I don't know what that one's about. I do titles first a lot of the time. I don't know where that one came from, but I think that was a phrase that just popped into my head while I was jogging.
I feel like that's where a picture of my dress could go next. It's like maybe not a good place.
Dirty Night's great.
It's the evolution.
The thing about the speaker and picture of my dress is fairly certain that life is going to be a great exploration now. It's like you're sort of over the hump, and now you don't know where you're going, but there's an optimism to the song, right? It's like
I think so. Let's not burst her bubble with Dirty Nightgown.
I think the bubble's got to get burst. It's like that's the thing. Nobody ever writes the song, and this is a very real song too. I think, although I'm not divorced, I can only speak from the sense of having exes with long relationships. But like when people write songs about missing their exes, it's either very romantic or it's about wanting to sleep with them, right? And it's not about no, you leave a self behind when you leave a relationship, right? There's you leave, and you don't really get to be that self anymore because that self was part of a contract, right?
Yep.
And the contract is broken. Now you don't get to be that self anymore. And there were a lot of perks to that self, usually alongside the parts that you were like, no, I can't. I have to go on to my new phase, right? And you miss that old self, and you miss the comfort, of that contract, right? And it's like that's a song that nobody writes. I don't think.
No, it's true. I think maybe, I don't know. That's a big thing to try to get into a song, but if anyone can do it, I feel like you might be the person for it.
See, I'm actually going into a writing phase again now. I started writing little songs a couple weeks ago, and so I'm gonna put it in the mix.
Oh, good, good. Well, I have to say you can't see it and it's still in the bag, but I dragged my wedding dress into the room so it could be in the room while we were talking.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been in a closet for all these years and has no idea as this object that I talked about it and then sort of inspired a song. So I dragged it out today and put it in my room.
That's super interesting. So you kept it, and you have not remarried, is that correct?
No, no, I've only been divorced for, I mean, I've been separated for 2 years.
Oh wow, this is fresh.
This is really fresh. Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I tweeted that tweet about my wedding dress, my ex-husband had just moved out of our house the month before.
Oh man, that's why it was such a fresh feeling. It was a vital expression. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, it was very fresh. So no, no, not remarried, just living life.
Yeah, I tell you, the night I've only played it live once, obviously, in front of an audience, but that was in November with, or December, maybe a year ago in Philadelphia. And that was the show at which somebody had me autograph their divorce certificate.
Really?
It's the greatest thing. It was like, I've been asked to sign a bunch of stuff, but like, my divorce just got finalized today. Would you sign this? It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I mean, that was such a deep thing to do, It's like, so, I mean, because again, I'm not divorced. Divorce is a big part of my life on the other side. My parents' divorce was a defining event for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, because I did not want to leave that house and I did not go to a better one. But because I've contemplated divorce so much, I wrote a million songs about a divorcing couple, and I just worried my brain about it forever, from childhood onward. It's like I think I do have. And Peter, my bassist, went through one, and we were very close in that time. And I think I sort of have a notion. You can't know anything except from inside it, right? But I have a notion of how people talk about it as if it was a little less than it was, when it actually is. It's one of those things like childbirth is like, it's comprehensive. It's going to inform every aspect of your being for a while.
Absolutely. It's good though, if you're going to, tweet something about your dead marriage, one of the best things that can happen is someone could respond to that tweet with, maybe I'll write a song about that.
It was a great little plot line, and it also suggested a form. Is the thing is like when I write, I don't normally sit down with an idea of genre, right? I just play and do, right? And then whatever I play first, I go, okay, well, this has got a little jazz thing. It's kind of jazzy, or this is, I think my folky songs are more punk in the way that it's all fast and downstroke stuff. But this is like, well, that's a country song, that's country or western, and country songs are actually very hard to write, and that's why I only have one or two. Is like the guys who are good at it, the people who are good at it, have a skill set that takes a lot of refining, But occasionally you can get in the zone, And I think the best way in is to have a good hook and a good plot. And what I discovered with this one is if it's one you connect to, that's best. Because I can remember the other country song attempts. Like I had one that I workshopped with a friend just in text for a while called Turn Left. It was going to be about a NASCAR driver, right? So in NASCAR, that's all you do.
You
right?
just keep turning left.
That's all you do, right? And so here was this song. It was a good frame, but I couldn't actually get the connection, and I felt like a poser. I sort of felt like, oh, you're trying to participate in a conversation that you don't really belong to. And I'm sure there's great writers who are great at that, insinuate themselves into it. But usually in any characters I'm writing, there's a level of it where I can very authentically imagine myself in that conversation, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine the NASCAR driver he's gonna die in this song. And my friend Perry is the guy who came up with this. Is like all my country songs tend to go through 3 phases, except for Picture of My Dress. So it's a young version of a person, present day person, and then later down the line version, right? And in Turn Left, he keeps describing, turn left, lean into the turn was the idea, and he's viewing turning left as a way of of sort of keeping your work in front of you, focusing on the one thing you're going to have to do, right? Which in NASCAR is you're going to turn left, and you drive straight, then you're going to turn left, right? And viewing that as a life ethos. But then when he gets to the dying phase, right, he points out that he's only, I hope you're sitting down, he's only got one turn left, right?
Oh my
That-
God. I think you need to write a poem about how you can't write a NASCAR song. I'm wondering if what spoke to you in a sort of country song way about this is it like the lost love plus travel? Because it seems like maybe those two things.
I mean, the tweet that you wrote, it had pain in it. It's like I connected to the pain, like all the things you didn't get to do. Well, I mean, I'm a parent now, right? All the things I don't get to do as a parent, I am happy to forego them, right? I love my journey of parenthood. But that doesn't mean that there's not a pang to some of them, right? Like my wife and I have always, we will plan 5 vacations before we take one, right? And we would very pinching pennies until they bleed around here. And so we don't, we really didn't take that many vacations in 15 years of marriage before we had kids. And then once you have kids, you occasionally go, well, my bassist again draws a great distinction. Before you have kids, you go on vacation. After you have kids, you go on a trip,
Yeah.
right? There is no vacation, right? So
Right. You're dragging your life to another location.
yeah, exactly. If you steal an hour of the vacation style chill on your trip with your kids, you're very lucky. And the trip is fun. You have a good time, but it's not a vacation. And we hardly ever took any. Well, now I would trade the vacations we did have for these kids. I don't care, right? I don't care. But there's a pang to it. You go, oh wow, what if we had gone to wherever, And well, when that's something about your youth and marriage and the other, experiences you might have had while you were trying to make something work that didn't wind up working, that's profound. That's a deep feeling that you crammed into, what do we do now, 320 characters or something?
No, something like that.
I was very against it's 280, I think, because it was 140 before, and I was very against the expansion.
I was too, and now I'm using it all up.
Oh yeah, no, I overrun now. Well, I knew it was going to make me do that. I'm a loudmouth. I can't stop. I'm a motor. And 140 was a great disciplinary exercise.
Yeah, I mean, as a poet, I felt like I had an advantage when the character limit was lower, and now I'm like, oh, anybody can say something good now. There's so much space.
Yeah, if you can't do it in 280, anybody can do 280. Come on.
I mean, come on.
But yeah, but I mean, I think that feeling of, I would say what I was talking about with books, it's possible worlds, but possible worlds in the past are ones you are not going to get to go to. If you go to them now, it's different, and the stuff you traded away to be in a marriage, that is, I think there's a line in the song about it. It's like, you can't get those years back. You can't. And so,
Nope.
Now if they were a good investment in yourself, I assume they usually were, unless you were in an absolutely catastrophic marriage, you didn't emerge with nothing. You emerged with knowing more about yourself. And that is something, but at the same time, there's a sense of loss with every passing day, right?
Right. Especially now.
I have actually learned that I do need a certain amount of socialization, but it took me 4 months to learn that. It's like, because 4 months, I was like, what? I'm doing what I was going to do anyway.
I'm an introvert. This is fine. Cool.
So, but I mean, I play cards with people, and that was really important to me. And doing it online does not scratch the itch. It's like, I do need the physical presence of bodies in my life. I think
Yeah.
playing live, actually, just being on stage satisfies my need to be around people, because I get such a massive energy influx from that.
So what is it like not being able to do that? I mean, I watched a live stream show recently and I was thinking, God, it must be so strange to be playing in a room without people.
So it was so different. We have some practice in doing that at radio stations and stuff. Never a full show like that. But I mean, it's so, this is one of those things like a marriage. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years, I think. And we've been, as a band, we three, me, John, and Peter, have been together since 2009. And Matt came on board just a couple years later. So we've all been at it for 10 years or better together, right? And this is our deal, And normally we have an expectation that for 2 to 4 months out of the year, we will be in one another's company in such close quarters that we won't even have conversations sometimes. We don't need to. It's like, it's not part of it. We'll go our own ways for, 18 hours a day. Well, no, for 16 hours a day. But then from sound check, from 4 p.m. until midnight to 2, we will be each other's company. And we,
Mhm.
in pursuance of a common goal. making a communal expression of music, right? Which is its own universe to inhabit. It's this enormous biosphere that you go inside of. And then a bunch of other people come inside at the end of the afternoon, and you all hang out in there, and then you decompress together afterwards. And then you retreat out to your cubicles and you stay solitary until the next afternoon, and you do it again. And lifestyle is a silly word, but that's what it is. It's like, this is a way of living, right? And it is the way that we know how to live. My drummer does it with like 3 different bands. He's out there 6 months out of the year or something like that.
Oh, I know. I don't know how he does it.
I have no idea, because he's one of those guys who comes home and goes back out 2 days later. And I did that for a couple of years, and at the end of it, it took a therapist to put me back together. It was I have to be home. I have to have feet on the ground for a certain amount of time. I have to get in the kitchen. I have to cook. I have
Yep.
to, I have to be tethered, connected to the home in some way. But yeah, it was being suddenly stripped of that. We went into the recording studio for 2 weeks right before it happened, and it was starting to happen in the middle of it, and I was like, I was aware. I'm a nurse. I could see it coming. And I was like, oh guys, this is not good.
I remember you messaged me from Memphis and sent a picture of you recording in the studio the song, and it was like maybe the first week of March, and things were just about to shut down.
It was only getting weird by the end of the next session. But I didn't for a minute think that like I would spend the whole year not being in a bus with my dudes or being on stage. This is the longest I've gone without being on a stage in front of people, in my adult life, which is a weird thing to say, and it's my job. And you don't normally think about what needs is my job, satisfying in me. But yeah, it's like we miss it. It's each other's company. And the band is like, I miss being on stage, but I miss being on stage with my dudes.
Yep.
Because that's the best, when it's us and them. And it's like, it's 2 groups of people meeting like in a field and sharing this moment in time and doing it every night. It's this profound banquet that we get to experience in our gig. There's other bad parts of the gig that I constantly bitch about all the time, right? Because I'm me. but we are incredibly blessed, incredibly fortunate to be musicians and to work in this business and to have the rug yanked out. Well, now we hustle all day. It's like now I figure out how to stay doing stuff that still communicates to people how much I value their ears and their spirits, and I'm doing it, somewhat as a business thing, but also just because that, the notion that we all just retreat into our corners and see each other on the other side of this, I can't, it's like, no, that connection is something that needs to be kept alive for me.
Yeah, Zoom isn't working. And I'm trying to do a book tour on Zoom too, and not get to have that feeling of being in a room with people reading, filling a bookstore with words and then signing a book and handing a physical object to a person and maybe hugging them, because we used to be able to do that. There are good things to not being on the road. I think my kids really need me here this year in particular. I was talking to Rhett Miller the other day, and
That's a good dude.
he's such a nice guy. My 8-year-old is named after him.
Oh, no kidding. I only met him once for an interview, but I was immediately struck by what a good dude that is.
Such a nice guy. Yeah, my youngest is Rhett. But he was saying that one of the perks of this year is that he's not on the road constantly for his kids from their perspective, because normally music is something that takes him away for stretches of time. And now he's doing every show from his house, and they're, watching, and he's around. And so it's good, I think, to keep in mind some of these little silver linings, even, for the other people in our lives, maybe, who would be missing us if we were constantly gone.
The kids are absolutely loving it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
My younger son is like, he gets a little extra energy burst after dinner and starts like making a laundry list of the rest of the play he wants to do, right? And
Oh,
you go, hey bud, you know what? I've been at this since 6 a.m. and I don't want to say to you that your parents are excited for your bedtime, but your parents are excited for your bedtime.
100%.
Because we're going to get 15 minutes of rest before we crash. And so it's like, we don't have anything left in the tank after 9 p.m. We play really hard at the end of the day. It's fun. They're boisterous dudes. We got to wrestle. We got to do stuff.
I'm not much of a wrestler, but we do have a lot of dance parties.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Today
skating.
today we did calisthenics. That was really good. My dude was visibly struggling to complete 3 reps of 5 crunches, and he did it. I was very, very proud.
I don't think I could do that. So I'm glad you're not my drill sergeant.
I'm totally, here's the thing. I used to really like Theodore Retzke, and I think becoming a PE teacher in my dotage will be the way to go.
I love this new possibility for you.
These are great career turns. Like, well, I had a good time as a singer-songwriter and as a novelist, but I have to pursue my passion of teaching PE.
Oh my gosh.
Can I ask you a question? You have tattoos.
I do.
Are they also post-divorce?
The ones on my right arm are pre-divorce, and the 3 on my left arm are post-divorce.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't start getting tattoos until very late in the game, and I got them after a bad year. Was my first one. I was like, I wanted to sort of get a stamp on me about that.
That may have been happening, and I just was not cognizant of it being a bad year.
And then everybody who had like people joke, well, once you get one, I was like, well, that's totally true for me. It's like now I'm just covered.
Once you sort of like break the seal, it's like, oh, it's just skin. What have I been wait? Why did I wait 38 years to think?
See, I actually know why I waited because my grandfather extracted a promise from me when I was 10. And I wasn't even that close to him, but I was wearing a press on one. And he was like 90. And John, what is that? And he looked at my father really accusingly. This was in a rest home. I said, Max, what has John got? And I could tell he thought that my father had let his 10-year-old get a tattoo, right? And my father was a very sort of very over serious about anything like that. Oh no, Dad, that's just a that's just from a gun pack. John would never get a tattoo. And it's one of those things where I'm Catholic. If you tell me I would never do something, right, and then I happen to, for the sake of a harmonious conversation, go, "Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't get one," right? Well, I carried that for 30 something years. I was like, "You told your grandpa, who you didn't really know at all, right? It's like that you wouldn't get one, right? You got to be good to your word, man." And I was like, and I thought about it after my wife broke the seal on hers. I was like, God, that looks cool as hell. It's like, I should get one, but you promised your grandfather, who's been dead for 35 years, that, and so then I did. I was like, oh yeah, that's foolish.
So it's okay.
Well, the thing is, but then if you wait until late, then you have a whole new thing you can be doing, right? I would have run out of space by now if I had started 18.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I would be out of real estate by now. So it's good that I'm pacing myself. I had one this summer.
What'd you get?
Oh, a gardenia,
Oh, cool.
which is my mom's favorite flower. So I had that, I mean, like masked, hand gel, 4 people in the shop, completely fine. But I had scheduled it beforehand and it takes, 8 months to get an appointment. And I just thought, no, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do it. And I did.
Yeah, I should make an appointment. It's hard to decide what to do with the rest of the available space. I actually have some dogwood, the snake going through dogwood here.
Oh, I love that.
Like, where's the snake's head at? Is the snake's you can barely it's one of my older oh, there's this. Yeah, it's a king snake.
I love it. Yeah, I right now my rule for myself is it has to be organic and it has to be black and white.
Oh, you used to do black and white. Yeah, yeah.
I'm only doing black and white. And so if I'm only doing sort of black and gray and it has to be something that like grows or is or was once alive. That's my compass, but that's a lot of stuff. And here's the thing, I love color. So I'm like, well, maybe I should break that rule. I don't know. Oh, I like the glasses.
The crab is holding my glasses because I was standing in the North Carolina surf. Moses talked really young, so he couldn't have been much older than 2, maybe just before 2. And I'm holding him, and I'm in the surf. And this is a baby. I forget if he was even fully, he's walking, but not much, right? So I got the baby in the surf, and it's cool. I'm knee high, and the water began to actually get choppy and rise fast, right? But we're having fun, we're singing and stuff. And it's not so high, it's on my hips or something like that. And a big old wave came right over my head. I'm holding the baby. I know he'll be fine, but I have to focus on the baby, right? So I root my heels and the wave goes over and it crests and we're shaking our heads. You okay, buddy? You all right? And he points at my eyes. And I went, oh, my glasses are gone. And he goes, well, I said, well, maybe a crab took the glasses. And he laughed and it became a shtick, for the next couple of days. Like, did a crab take daddy's glasses? Maybe it was a crab, So now that's the exact pair of glasses that the crab that I no longer have.
I love that. My father wore his money clip. They're the legend of the money clip into the ocean one year when we were on vacation when I was a kid with all of our vacation money in his money clip in
No.
his like trunks and lost it. It's too bad I only get organic tattoos because my tribute tattoo to my dad could be like a dolphin with a money clip.
Yeah, that's right.
Which, would probably not be that attractive on me after all, but it would be funny.
Well, hey, good to meet you face to face, sort of, and to have a good conversation.
Same. Hopefully, when the world makes more sense, I'll come to a show and I'll wave.
We'll be back at it. And the thing is, we seriously, the band and I are in text about it, talking every day. It's like, just, we really want to be doing the thing that we do again, because everything I'm doing now is stuff I can do and be good at. But with the exception of writing, it's stuff I wouldn't normally be doing. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's just out of my, it's a substitute skill set for the stuff I actually have become good at.
Yep. We're all treading water right now. It'll be good to get back at it.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, but I'm into it.
Oh, well, this is fun. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse podcast, and thanks to Maggie Smith and John Darnielle for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please follow us wherever you get your podcasts and or your social media. This week's episode was produced by Melissa Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.